The direct drums, I decided to stay a little bit more on the dry side. So let's take a listen to just the drums. There's a little bit of room sound in there, but I didn't do any big reverb tails or try to make it sound like it's in a big space because we have our second set of toms. And this was Hal and I doing some double drumming, and that sounds like this. So those toms are setting behind the kit. With the actual drums being a little drier, it feels like it's a little more close to you, and then the double drumming part feels like it's much further away. Alex also did a plethora of background vocals, some doubles, some harmonies, and here's a few of those. So here's the second verse.
We don't care, no we don't care. Tonight we're kings, tonight we're queens. Oh, oh, so kiss the ring, so kiss the ring. Oh, oh.
So the verses actually have a few doubles, kind of some stacked gang vocals, and a couple harmonies, whereas the chorus is just the lead vocal plus the doubles.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Happy Sunday afternoon, day before Halloween, if that's a thing. It's Halloween Eve, right? Tomorrow's Halloween? What's today? The 30th?
Today's 30, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Tomorrow's Halloween, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So my trick-or-treating is going to be going to Ralph's, the candy aisle, and just buying a bunch of candy. Oh, that's what I'll be doing. But right now I got my coffee, and that's all that matters. So what's everybody been up to? Anything fun? We've been quite freaking busy here, which has been good. Had some fun sessions in, working on some new video, some new music. We're getting ready to prep the final songs from the studio song for the year.
Yes.
Steve DeLuca singing on this one again. This is going to be a cool track. Full-on rock. It's going to be a lot of fun, actually, I think. I mean, they all are.
Yeah.
What am I saying? It's making music. They're all fun. BGE, I haven't seen you since Friday. Yeah, we're trying to get Ernesto's record label to release that tune we did on Friday. That was such a last minute when the artist wasn't able to make it. And literally last minute, I think within the last, 45 minutes before we were going live, we were like, what are we going to do?
Yep.
Talking to Matt, and then
Yeah.
we had that setup, and we liked the setup. So
Setup was great.
We got to show it, you know?
Yeah. That was, I would say, part of the stream, right? Showing how good that setup was.
And huge props to him for coming in and being the acoustic player and the singer all
And singer, yeah. So, you know, who in his right mind goes out and sings, right?
Oh man.
I'm not the first guy to do it, but
You know, that takes stones though. You're on a live stream, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know, everything's, you know, the artist didn't show, and now what are we gonna do?
You
It's
know?
like, dude, you gotta go out and sing and play.
yeah.
But it worked. That was actually a cool setup though. The two figure 8 mics, one angled down at the acoustic and one at the voice, worked so freaking good.
Yeah.
I was actually very, very surprised. I mean, I knew that mic would sound good because I use that mic all the time.
Yeah.
And I know that's a technique. I've seen other people do it, but that was the first time for me personally
Yeah,
ever trying
yeah.
it.
Rejection was cool.
Yep. And the
Cool.
sound of that mic in figure 8 with the voice was, I can't wait to do that on another actual vocal session. Go ahead and go to figure 8 and see what happens. Because that was cool. That was really cool. So if you guys haven't seen it, go check that out. That's from the Roswell Virtual Showroom on Friday. Our last minute substitute came in and saved the freaking day.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And it was one of the few times we had everything set up an hour before, and it was like basically dead time, right? Pretty much. So, all right, we can relax now. Nope.
We were so prepared that time. We had our schedule dialed in for that one. The room was looking good. We had done a sound check. We were actually relaxed.
Yeah, everything was prepped.
Until we're like, where's the artist? That doesn't happen very often, actually. Usually
No.
I always have a mandatory half-hour break before those. So if we were going at 3:30, I'm sitting down, period. I don't care. And usually right up till that minute,
Yeah.
it's stressed. There's always something, you know, especially when you have a full band and maybe it's a camera thing, maybe it's an audio. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Every one of these things, it's crazy
Yeah.
how much work it takes to get all those and make everybody in the room happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So for once, we were relaxed and we didn't have an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, no shows is a strange experience.
Yeah. It's the first time.
You know, it's a strange
Apparently
experience.
she was not feeling well, but, you know, at least we had Ernesto coming in. This has been like this last week is all about mics. With the video with all the mics on the electric guitar.
Yeah.
That was also an eye-opening experience.
Yes, it was great. It was great. Surprises, you know, it's like, ooh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. And then some obvious, I would say, answers to or expectations. It's like, this is gonna be bright, and it was. Yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah, those are I've like I said in the beginning of that video, we were just doing it because we wanted to know how all those mics sounded. One, it's to kind of reset your ears, see if the mics that you think are what you consider to be the best really are the best. Is there another option?
Yeah.
Or is there just some other variations of similar sounds that might work a little better on one song or another song kind of thing? And as we got going in there, I mean, the ones we thought were going to be good were good. I mean, they just sounded like the way we expected them to react, whether it was dead center of the cone or on the outside. And there were a few, though, we put up and went, what?
It was surprising.
expect
yeah,
that.
it was cool. Cool.
And to see how different a few of them that I didn't like center of the cone. I think you and I had a couple of the same, where that very first one, because we always did the same order: center, edge, and off axis. The exact same order that's in the video. So the first thing we heard was the brightest possible sound, and sometimes you're like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And then it went to the edge of the cone, and all of a sudden, whoa, that bright mic that was making my ears bleed in the center of the cone was really nice out on the edge.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that in a few cases.
Yeah. It's cool because you get a set EQ from the mic, right? And then you say, okay, this is gonna be bright, so don't use it in the center. So move it out.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's, you can probably maybe start putting labels on mics. It's like bright, use edge.
Well, the cool thing is now is there's a database, which is kind of nice. So we're gonna do that with. I mean, we've been talking about how we're gonna do the next one, because for my own self, I want to know how all these work with a clean tone and something maybe slightly bit overdriven. Not full on distortion, because I'm expecting. Well, I was expecting to hear a few of these mics in a different way, having used many of them on drums a lot. So I thought I knew how they were all going to react, and I was surprised by a few, which is now why I want to go with the clean tone and a slightly overdriven and do the same exact test. Maybe we might add a couple mics, because we left some out, because it took us all day just to do. I'm going to turn my phone off. It took us all day to do that, just that initial recording. And after a while with distortion and that stuff, your ears just, you don't know if what you're hearing is what you're hearing. And you just get a little tired.
Yeah, and you don't remember what the first 5 mics sounded like. So everything just becomes this huge amount of mid-range.
Yep. So we are going to do that with a cleaner tone. We'll probably do that sometime this month. And then I'm going to do some also with drums. Well, we're going to do an acoustic too, because the acoustic guitar to me is one of those instruments that I think 3 places: drum overheads, acoustic guitar, and a piano. 3 fantastic places to get an overall idea of what a mic is going to sound like, because those instruments have pretty much your full range. Drums will give you the transients. You'll have some transients from acoustic guitar also, but in a little bit different way. The piano, you'll have transients, obviously, but depending on where you mic it, they'll be a little rounder, where the drums will be very pointy.
Yeah.
So we are going to do acoustic guitar, which is going to suck for him, because he's literally going to have to play it for every single mic. The clean one, we'll do a reamp again, so it's the same. And when we do the drum one, I think I'm going to do a mono. I think a mono overhead, because we don't have stereo pairs of everything, and I'd like to hear all of those.
Yeah.
So probably a mono overhead, maybe a touch higher than normal, so it sees a bit more of the kit a bit more evenly. And that's going to suck for me, because I'm going to have to play every freaking time. But you're going to have to listen to it every time.
Yeah.
So that's all on the docket. Soon, actually. I would imagine we'll get to most of that before the end of the year. It was just so eye-opening. But anyway, what are we talking about today? What's our starting conversation? Enough about guitars.
Yeah. Well,
We can program that.
Yeah, the other day we were kind of listening to a mix, and it's like the low end right, or all the highs are okay. So okay, let's grab the headphones, and then a new rabbit hole.
Well, here,
emerged. Yeah.
the actual setup. I called Ernesto.
Yeah.
Somewhat in a panic with my ears, because all of a sudden I was doing multiple mixes that week, and I wasn't quite trusting what I was hearing, because I've switched fully to the Atom speakers, which I dig. But my other check, I had 2 other checks, right? One is these crappy little speakers that are, $20 on Amazon, that are great for seeing if stuff's going to fart out. And then I always had my headphones. So when it was the Yamahas, I always use the MX50, the Audio-Technica.
Yeah.
I've used that headphone for years. I know it really well. But the Yamaha speakers themselves were bright. So you kind of had the speakers were bright, and the Audio-Technicas didn't feel as bright as the speakers. So it was like, okay, you had a little bit of difference, but the mid-range was somewhat similar, so it didn't feel like you had to relearn your mix every time you changed. We'll get into that in a second. But since going to the Atom speakers, which are a lot smoother, especially in the top, but not dull, because he hasn't complained about anything in the mixes being dull. So I know my high end has stayed pretty nice. and I can listen for longer on them. But when I go to my headphones to check, all of a sudden I put the Audio Technicas on. I'm like, holy shit, these things are bright. What is going on? And at first I was like, I don't remember these headphones being this way.
Yeah.
And then I go back and I listen to the Adams. I'm like, but it's not that bright there. Then I listen and I go, well, my low end feels different. Why is that low end? And all of a sudden, I have second guessed one thing and I started second guessing everything. And I'm like sending him test mixes to listen to and go, dude, what is going on? I'm like, come over, bring the headphones that you really know. I've got a mix. I've got a couple things I want you to hear and I want to see what you're hearing, because I was starting to second guess, which is a horrible place to be when you're doing a mix. So we took a whole night. We did it a couple times, actually. But the first night, he brought the headphones that he knows, and we'll get into those because he's got a couple pairs that are really nice that I like too. And we started really comparing what the headphones compared to the mix and looking at what we were hearing, not just frequency-wise, but kind of front to back. Because there were some headphones that, like the snare, it felt like it came out crazy. And we realized, wow, there is a considerable boost in that, like 1 to 3K area. In some cases, a little bit higher than that. We're like, okay, that was one thing I didn't like about my 2 sets of Yamahas. We always went to the 5s compared to the 8s. And there was a giant boost on that one, probably about 4 or 5K on that one, right about 1.5 in there. I don't remember exactly, but it was somewhere in there. And I always felt I had to relearn where things were sitting, and it drove me insane. And all of a sudden, I'm that way with my headphones that I've trusted for years. So I was freaking out. I'm like, dude, you got to come over, bring what you know. We got to do some testing. And that led us down as he said, huge rabbit hole of testing all the headphones we had. He's gone out and actually spent some days going and went to the Guitar Center and listened to everything they had down there.
It's just out of curiosity, yeah.
So we learned some things there, but what I'm curious about is, we'll get into a little more as we go on of what we learned between the headphones that we have here and why I like one over the other, or where I might use them for in the studio, and the same with him. I'm curious about what you guys are using. And why? What you like about them? Are you mixing only in headphones? Are you doing tracking? Is it both? Do you have them as just a check? What is it? What do you like? But the big thing is why. What is it about whatever you're using that works for you? And maybe that'll help all of us out a little bit.
Yeah, it's just, and if there's a common denominator in brands or models,
Yep. Because there's so many out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord. I mean, I've got 5 different pairs of what we have here. And I think we determined we have, 9 pairs? Or 9 different types between us? Everything here. So we've got a bunch here. He's got a really nice set of Sennheiser 600s. Oh, how in the house? Dude. When is he coming back to L.A.? We got to do some more drums. But one thing I figured out after that night is we did a little more tuning in the room, because things have been moving around, and I have been trying to improve a few areas in the control room that I've learned to deal with, but I'm just tired of dealing with this. I'm like, I'm going to see if I can make it a little bit better. So we made a few changes with the sub positioning and the volume and got it really nice in the room. It's probably, especially in the area where we are right now, which is the mix position, it's probably the best it's ever been. And it's also a little bit wider than it was before with the Yamahas. And that's something I'm really liking about the Atom speakers. But what I noticed after we did those that night, and we have a list of songs that we do, like low end check and high end check, right? Just a playlist. But what I noticed that night as we were checking is the relationship between the headphones that I've trusted for years and the speakers, the monitors that I've had for years, had changed. So the Yamahas they're just relentlessly bright. Pretty honest up there in that upper mid-range too. But, after a couple hours of mixing, I take a lot of breaks with those, and I mix a lot longer at lower volumes with those. But that relationship between what I got from the speaker and how I use the headphones had flipped. And before I was smart enough to realize that's what happened, I kind of panicked and freaked out and started second-guessing everything. And that's what led us to everything that we're talking about right now and all the testing. I have a pair of M70Xs, which the bottom end ridiculously close to what I'm hearing in the speakers. But I didn't like the mid range. Your Sennheisers.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just kind of go through these one at a time.
Yeah.
First off, he's got let's go right to the creme de la creme, or at least of what we have, what we think.
So yeah, probably the most unappealing headphone ever.
Hal says he's awake, still looking at the Origin 16's user manual. Hal, you need to talk to David Vignola. He's got the 32, but he could probably answer a bunch of your questions. Dude knows everything about that.
So here they are, right? So good old Sennheisers.
Those are the 600s, right?
600s. And they've been around for a long, long time. I think maybe like, I don't know, over 10 years.
So
probably.
the new one's the 650, right?
Yeah, 650.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and what do you primarily, how do you use them? Let's go with that. You know, because everybody's going to have different things that they like. Let's go with how do you use them and why do you use them that way? What is it?
Just an overall balance, because their mid-range is very neutral. They almost have no high end in terms of, compared to, other headphones that I have. And the low end is not hyped at all.
Well, yeah, the high end isn't hyped either. They're
No.
amazingly boring.
Yeah. So if you want to like really
It's not
enjoy listening.
So then for you, it's another set of speakers for you when you're mixing and mastering.
Yeah.
It's your check.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So if it sounds like completely uninteresting, it's like I know I'm in the right spot. So, but if I start hearing weird things, then it's like, okay, what's going on? So, but weird thing meaning certain things being emphasized.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's the thing. Is almost
Yeah.
if something starts to sound too good in that headphone, you know
Yeah.
you probably have a problem.
Yeah.
Ooh,
exactly.
wow, my cymbals are sizzling, and you're wearing those. You got too much high.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other ones that I have, that I also use for reference once in a while, is the buyers, which are closed.
Which one is that though? The what?
This is the 770, right? 770 Pro. So Biodynamic 770 Pro, which are very common for drummers, right? They really isolate pretty good, and they're great for tracking. And I use these because they're more hyped in the lows. So I use these to kind of double check if the low end is maybe a little bit too much.
So that's almost like your bass boost. If
Yeah.
someone turns the bass boost on and whatever
Yeah,
they're listening
exactly.
to, you
Yeah,
use
yeah.
that to make sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. And these are actually kind of enjoyable to listen. So they're closer to maybe consumer headphones, if you think it's like, oh, let's see how would it sound like on Beats headphones, right? Because those are like,
Talk in your mic because I'm watching your levels go all over.
yeah. So they're more like, the hyped
But they're not
headphones.
really hyped. I mean, they're
No.
just
Just a little bit, a little bit of
sizzle.
just a little bit
Little
of
sauce.
Yeah, a little bit of sauce on the lows and highs. Mid range is okay, and and then the third pair that I use, just to maybe hear more critical listening, more like I hear something. What the hell is it, right? The trusted old,
Oh my lord!
right? The Sony's MDR.
Talk in your mic.
The Sony's
There.
MDR 7506. So, right, everybody uses these. They're they're bright, but everything is clear. It's not bright, like annoyingly bright, but everything is clear. So if you hear like, especially in mixes where there's a click somewhere, digital click. All right, let me put these on, and I'll definitely hear where it's at. So they're great for just to check the weird noises and mixes.
So you basically go between you have a small set of Yamahas, but you
Yeah.
have the HS, the
50s, yeah,
right, not the
olds,
5s.
yeah, the old Yamahas.
I much preferred those.
Yeah.
I wish when I did make the change, I wish I wouldn't have. But so you have those as the main set with the sub that you use and know.
Yeah.
And do you spend more time on the speakers when you're doing it, or say in these headphones? Or
No,
is
no, it's speakers most.
And then you go to the headphones once you think you're like, okay, I'm cool right here. Now I'm going to do some checks in different spots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and sometimes if if I'm really like tired and I don't want to like listen to the speakers, I put on headphones and I mix much lower so I can still hear everything. And then I'm not like, oh man, I don't hear it on the speakers, and then I have to crank it, and then you're tired, and it's like, it doesn't work anymore. So with headphones at a lower volume, I can actually, work more without getting tired.
Right.
So yeah, it's a combination of workflows. Yeah.
These are open back, so
Yes.
they're really comfortable.
Yes.
And this was interesting when we were using these in our comparison
Yeah.
the other day. I mean, I couldn't believe how the low end and the low mids,
Yeah.
especially, were actually really close to what
Yeah.
were coming out of the Atom speakers. The mid range felt I felt like it was a little back here, like where the snare and stuff was, popped a little bit more from the Atoms, but it wasn't as big a difference as I remember on the 80s and the 5s, the Yamahas. But the high end, it's crazy. You hear the cymbals, everything on this, but it's so, I'm not going to say dull, but just boring.
Yeah.
But you hear it all. It was. It took a minute to get used to.
Oh,
bit.
totally.
But for me, we have a couple different ways to use them, and then I'm going to get back to my whole panicking and not trusting my ears thing because it's kind of funny. I'm in here having a meltdown by myself. Steam coming out of my ears. But I have the 50s that I'm back to my trusted second pair. Now that I've reset my ears and I know that the relationship between my monitors and my headphones has switched, and I understand it now, I trust them again, what I'm getting, and it's working. Although I think a pair of these is on my list, and there may be some others I have to try out.
Yeah.
It's one thing I kind of miss about NAMM is there was one year we went and tried every set of headphones. It was kind of cool being able to just go hear them, even though you're in noisy NAMM. It's hard to do with open back headphones. But this is definitely, I think, on the list. I'm going to keep searching. But I am back to now I understand the relationship of I use the 50s as my hi-fi check. If those, when I put them on, are so bright that I'm like, oh, man, this is too much, then I know instantly, dude, back it off. And I get where the low end sits between the two. But I have a couple different things here at the studio because it's not just mixing. And you're doing mastering, too.
Yeah.
I don't do any mastering. I'm realizing that I'm starting to buy different sets for different reasons. Meaning I have a pair that I keep in here that I don't let go out to the other rooms. And that actually probably is that set of, this set of 50s right. Or actually, no, it's the set that's back by the console. Shocker. I don't let those go out into the live room because they get turned up so loud when we're tracking. Like sometimes I'll go out there when we're doing playback and I'll walk in the live room and all the headphones are turned up so loud you'll hear them distorting. It's just crazy. So I don't let those go out so they don't get worn out. So I know I have one pair that's, not getting abused. But I've learned now that was depending on the music, but we do a lot of rock, especially live recording, that I like the 50s to give to anyone out in the room because they are a little bit more exciting to listen to. They block out enough. If you're sitting next to Chad Smith, it might not be enough, but not everybody plays that loud. But they block out enough to where you can still hear things clearly, and the low end is good. Bass players don't complain. So that's one thing I like about these from a tracking standpoint. I also have these are the Sennheiser HD 280s, which I accidentally yanked off my head the other day and pulled the earthing off. Need to buy new ones. These, to me, have a different low end. It's a bit more hyped. I give these either go to drummers or bass players. Sometimes the drummers don't need that much bottom. They just want to hear the drums cutting through, and the low end on the Audio-Technicas is good, but the punch is really nice. It kind of comes out at you a little bit more. Where these really, you could use these as just isolation headphones. So a lot of the times I'll give these next to a bass player because the low end response is great, and they're right next to the drummer, so it helps block a little bit of that out so they can hear a bit more of their low end. And then guitar players, it's usually going to be another set of the 50s.
Yeah.
The 50X. That's what I'm going to use. Man, I'm getting worn. What else do I have? And then I have, and I don't use these other ones very often. This is my utility headphones. And sometimes these go to, oh my God, they're wrapped up very poorly. Very poorly. I'm going to fire the person that wrapped these up. Oh, wait, that was me. These are the Sony. This is actually the old version of yours.
With the V6, right?
Yep.
Yep.
They're a little bright for my taste. I don't like them personally. But I have found there are some singers that really like these because it makes everything kind of come right out in your face. They don't block out very well, so if they're cranked, you're going to get a lot of bleed. But quite frankly, unless you're doing super ballad, like soft acoustic and singer only, I haven't really ever had too much of a problem with bleed. But that's what they'll get used for. A lot of the times, I would say 90% of the time, it's a set of the Audio-Technicas, which I have many. I'm looking in there. I probably have 6 or 7 pairs of those. And then I have a couple pair of the old 50s. And then the Sennheisers, I only have 1 pair. I probably need to get a second one of those because I have had drummers and bass players go, no, I want those. No, I want those. Then we arm wrestle over it, and whoever wins gets them. But that's kind of what I use the different ones for here. So I'm curious, how are you guys using them? What's the favorite set of headphones? I see Hal. I know he likes the 50X, which we agree on that. I mean, I just know that headphone so well. Times I took the cheap pair. Oh, my Lord, Mike, yes. So here, Mike says, I couldn't afford good headphones at the time, so I took a cheap pair of in-ears and put them inside a pair of 3M earmuffs. Great isolation for tracking drums. I have several people. Stephen Wolf tracks here a lot, and he does that. He puts earplugs in, actually, then puts headphones over it. But I remember Fiera Bracci would put the in-ears on, put the earmuffs just like that, and then crank them. And then someone else recently did that, too. And yeah, you get tons of isolation. And actually, I think the in-ears, for me, I used them for years playing live, but I got real sick of having something right in my ears, even though the isolation is great. It's just so fatiguing after a while. But if you're tracking, your listening isn't critical in that way. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of drummers do bring in their own in-ears now, and it does make it easier because they don't have to have them as loud. And that's one less set of headphones and click track, crank it out at the beginning and ending of songs coming. So yeah, that's actually a really good way to do it.
Yeah. Then Brant is asking about if we use that SonarWorks plugin for.
No, I haven't.
Measurement.
I do want to try that at some time because I'm curious. But I've talked to a few people that have used it that I trust. And it's been varying degrees of effectiveness, plus the inherent latency, which isn't huge, but you can get around all that stuff. And I haven't used it, so I really can't say if that's even an issue. So, Your Honor, please strike that from what he just said. But I personally like to try to get my room as right as I can and know the room first, and build it for a spot. But that is on the list. We were actually talking about that last week of maybe getting somebody to come over and doing just a test with it that really knows how to set that system up, and we could, even film some of that and just see, because maybe it'll blow my socks off. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the speakers, even the new Atom A series, all have that built in. I know the head speakers do, the Genelecs, there's many of them. And we heard it, I will say, we did hear, I want to say it was when they released the 1 series.
Yeah.
Years ago, we were at Vintage King when this mixer, Craig Bauer, really killer mixing engineer, was doing something down there. So we went down there to test that. It was at the Vintage King down by LA, downtown. And their main, showroom, which was not treated, nothing special whatso freaking ever. They even had where he was set up was almost kind of in a corner-ish area, blasting out in a weird way. And he's going through this mix that he brought. It sounded freaking amazing. I mean, he's really freaking good anyway, so I didn't expect it not to. But in a room like that, even with great speakers and you're moving around and it's just a room.
Yeah.
You don't expect it to be that consistent and even. And both of us, I remember sitting there going, holy crap, we're like 15 feet from him. And I'm listening to this going, man, these speakers are awesome. Way out of my price range, unfortunately, but they sounded really good. And they were talking about how they were using the built-in or their version of their system,
See, but Mike is correcting. I can't use in-ears, so I took small on-ears off of the headband, opened up the 3M earmuffs, and put the on-ears inside.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so you yeah. See, that's what Vic Firth tried to kind of do with their drum headphones that sound absolutely atrocious. I even the new ones, they're terrible. I would imagine what Mike did was probably a little bit better there. But yeah, you get great isolation. And if you're just tracking, that's really the name of the game. Can you isolate enough to hear things comfortably? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're in a loud environment, you know, or you sit next to a loud drummer or something. Pesky-ass drummers. They're loud. But anyway, yeah, so we heard that when they were demonstrating that, and we were both blown away. So yes, the SonarWorks thing I am interested in. If at the very least, I'd like to learn more about it and see what happens. And, you know, maybe use it, maybe not. I don't know. Won't know until I actually try it. So, yeah, Mike, they don't sound great, but you can hear everything. Yeah, and when you're tracking, that's the name of the game. Absolutely. Actually, I might take an old pair of mine and try that.
Yeah.
That might be a cheap way of getting another pair. What's Rod say? Which ones, Rob? I know it might sound crazy, but I read about these in Tape-Op. Studio Dude, which ones? Which ones are you talking about? Oh, another set. We're going to go back in time a little. I mean, do they still sell these?
Which ones?
You know I'm pulling.
Oh yeah.
They do?
Oh yeah, of course.
I haven't checked.
The it's like the studio staple for
Mini Moons.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
These.
What are these? What they called? 371? No, what
I don't
they
know.
called?
I got everything.
No, 200.
I managed to get them all
200.
tangled.
No, 240. These are the AKG 240s.
Yep, the K240.
Yep.
This is a great headphone. Ridiculously comfortable. It doesn't block out anything because you can't get them tight enough on your head. But, oh, man, you could walk. I mean, this could be an accessory.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start something new. What do you think? This be my look from now on?
Yeah.
But they're really comfortable, and they actually sound really nice. However, besides the fact that they don't block out, so if you're sitting next to someone that's really loud, like a drummer, for instance, or next to an amp or something, they don't block out quite enough. So the isolation isn't great. They're also, I think these are 600 ohms. Yep.
Oh yeah. So you need to. You
got to have some power.
Yeah.
You have to have some power to push these things. Otherwise, they just won't get over, modern day volumes. And for most of the live tracking we do here, I can't use these with anybody.
Yeah.
I gave them once. They had everything blasted. They're like, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
But they sound really nice, and they are really comfortable, which, since I haven't used them in quite a while, this is going to be my next test out here. And that brings me to the next thing, is actually the volume of these and ohms. So the higher the number, and I'm sure some of you guys know this, so if you do, I'm not insulting you, but the higher the number, the quieter they're going to be, the more power they're going to take to drive. So like these are 600 ohms. They're not a loud headphone. I believe those aren't Sennheisers are.
The buyers are 80 ohms.
And they make 3 different versions.
Yeah, they make like 30, 80, and then one like 200 or something.
Yeah.
So I took middle of the road because I didn't know at the time when I bought them. So I'll try these.
I'd actually like to test to see if there is any difference in sound between them. I would imagine not, but again, I haven't tested it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's something important to think about. If you got a studio and you got people in and you're tracking, you want to make sure that whatever you have for headphones is going to be loud enough for the type of tracking you're doing. So in my case, if I have a rock band in, I know I need to be able to push enough volume. I also know my headphone system, which is the Behringer PM16s, which are great. I mean, the functionality are great, but they are a little noisy if you get a lot of channels open up. So I'd like to have my headphones be a little on the louder side so you don't have to run everything quite so hot and I don't have to push it as hard. And that kind of helps balance out, some gain staging there helps balance out the noise just a little bit. And sometimes you can't get around it. And once a loud band starts playing, you don't hear any of that noise anyway. And then after that, your ears are ringing so bad that it doesn't make any freaking difference. But you want to think about that depending on what you're doing. If you're only mixing at home, You don't need the loudest one. It doesn't really matter. Your
Yeah.
options are wider. You could find a headphone like this AKG if you liked it and go with it. Wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Also, the closed back headphones are great if you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a room tracking a band, no work. They just the bleed is too bad.
Yeah.
They don't isolate enough. And that could be the same thing if you're in here, like when I'm tracking with bands, and I check with headphones quite often as we're going through, just a critical listening, always working. I couldn't do that with the closed back headphones because they bleed too much. There's too much bleed from the actual monitors. Yeah, I could turn the monitors down, but there's sometimes other people in the room that need to hear too.
Yeah.
What's Brent using? What's he got?
No, Brent is asking the buyers 150s, 100s, and the 1990s. I know I think the 1990 is the top of the line, because they always go higher, higher numbers. The more expensive it gets. I'm curious. I haven't tried them, so yeah, I know the 990s are kind of cool, but I need to listen to them. I need to compare. It's all about comparing, the ones and then, okay, what happens when I go here? But side to side. I cannot just go there and then remember how they sounded like, because you can't do it.
I don't know. I wonder if we could go do a test sometime and take a bag of headphones with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say those buyers are comfortable.
Oh,
They're light, and the cups are nice and large, so they
Yeah.
really get around your ear, and they just they almost float around your ears, which is also nice for tracking. They do a decent job of isolating also. Oh, the Monoprice. Man, I buy so much stuff from Monoprice. Really?
Let's see here.
The Hi-Fi DJ style over-ear Pro.
Sennheiser. Let me see how much these
Interesting.
are. Sennheiser DT 1990.
Yeah, Marcos, that HD 280, I'd say that all-purpose headphone, that's a good way of putting it. I find the the 50X also from Audio-Technica to be that way, but I do like the little bit of the extra isolation you get from the 280s. When you stick those on, they actually block out quite a bit. Obviously, I'm talking about recording environments there. So what's the 990? Oh, yeah.
These are the 1990. Yeah.
Oh, the 1990.
Yeah, it's 450, 460. So yeah, they're on the more dough side.
Oh, is that an open back?
Oh look, they have to disconnect.
Oh, see, that's another thing. I do like headphones. Nowadays, a lot of companies are doing this. Most are, but that have the cable that you can disconnect and change, because nothing drives me more nuts when the cable starts to go bad. And usually that happens in this area where it's getting bent all the time. And fixing is not impossible, but it is a pain in the arse if you've ever fixed your headphones. I mean, if you're really handy with that stuff, it's not a big deal whatsoever. But I do like the fact that these come off. That's one thing I don't like about some of the others is I can't do that and replace them. The Audio-Technicas actually come with 2 sets with each set of headphones. So long used to wear in-ears and construction type ear protection over the isolation, safe listening. Yeah, ugly but work, right? Yeah. I mean, let's face it. When we're all wearing headphones and all this stuff in the studio, they're all ugly. Oh, Studio Dude says they're listed, those Monoprice ones. Look those up. I'm interested. They're listed with mic, but there is no mic. $20 a pair.
What?
Yeah, from Monoprice.
Monoprice? What?
I mean, and sometimes that's a huge thing that, we'd all like to have the best, whatever that is. It's going to be different for everybody, right? But we all want to have the best, but sometimes you just can't, your money, what you have to spend dictates what your best is going to be at any given time. And I think like with monitors, you can get used to anything and learn how they react and make it work. I'm just starting to find that the better I get things out of the gates, the easier it is, instead of having to constantly learn the downside to whatever monitor or room or headphones or whatever. Yeah, House says Monoprice rocks. I mean, I get so many cables, all that HDMI, all our cables I buy from Monoprice now. And they're local. I kind of like that. Holy crap, really? $14.99? Okay, that's worth just buying a set and just checking out. Okay, that's gonna.
Oh wow. $15?
Wait.
Man.
Wait. Darren King putting gaff tape over his headphones. What do you mean? Like when they're on, like wrapping gaff tape around the head? If that's what you're saying, no, I have not seen that. But I know plenty of people that bring the headband, put them on, put the headband over it, and then it just smashes the headphones against their ears.
Wow, so they're 40 ohms, so they must get loud.
Holy crap. Frequency response of 20 hertz to 20. That'll be interesting. All right. I think $15 I can order those and check that out. I'm just curious now. I'm going to have to know. And I need to order some HDMI cables anyway, some replacements. So, holy crap. That is insane.
Wow. That is crazy.
Studio Dude says for tracking, they can't be beat. And you don't have to worry about somebody smashing them. Yes, there is that. I have had many headphones stepped on, unfortunately. I mean, you read about them in Tape Op. Tape Op's talking about a $20 pair of headphones from Monoprice. Come on. Okay, I got to look up this Darren thing, though. What's his last name? Where did I just see that? Darren King. Okay, what's going on with this? Darren King. Oh. Wait, that's a live photo and he's got Is that really? Okay, hold on. Is that gaff tape under his headphones under his chin? Oh, because he's doing it live. Oh, and there he's got a beard and he's doing it. That can't feel good taking that off. Wow. I can't believe I've never seen this. I love the kit with no bottom heads and no back head, no reso head on the kick, though. That's awesome.
Studio Dude,
Wow.
I have 10 pairs.
Well, you know what? That's at that price point, that allows you to get enough pairs that you can use. And if they sound good enough for tracking and no one complains, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That is
Wow,
great.
okay. I got to see let me see if I can get a bigger photo of this because I got to show this. This is crazy. Okay, hold on. Where are my tools? Let's see. Size.
Wow, that is wild. $15 for a pair of headphones.
Okay, let's see if this is open in a new tab. Open image, a new tab. There we go. Okay, this is insane. Okay, I'm gonna cut this in, you guys. You got to see this. What camera am I on? I am in 2. This is what Marcos is talking about. This is insane. Look at all that gaff tape underneath his headphones. Oh my.
Well, yeah.
I'll bet they don't move.
Nope.
And I'll bet that stays consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
in-ears have the advantages. They're always there. When you use headphones live, they may move around a little bit. Wow. Okay. That's actually kind of cool. I saw one photo. It looked like he had a beard and all that tape on there, man. You rip that off and ow. It's like getting a Brazilian every time you take your headphones off. Okay, that was pretty cool.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
That was great.
Wow.
That was awesome. Yeah, sometimes I even check on I have the AirPods Pro, right? Sometimes I just check, because obviously a lot of people have those, and it's interesting, right? Because they're nice sounding, So I have them if I need to check something. So
I check them with my iPhone headphones too, and those are quite possibly some of the worst headphones ever made. Everything is kind of nasally, and the mid-range is always jacked. But it's a great, if it doesn't completely fall apart on those, I know I'm kind of in the same spot. Yeah, Sonic Solution, I don't look at it as for some drummers. I look at that using the Reso head or not purely as a sonic thing for the tunes. Because I know some drummers that hate playing without it because it makes the drum very hard to play. I mean, as in the impact is hard. But it can sound really cool. Whereas some drummers don't like it when you have a full Reso head on because the amount of bounce back with the air pushing back makes it really bouncy. But sometimes you just got to put your head down and power through. Drummer, look, it's going to sound awesome without the Reso head. Or look, it's going to sound awesome with the full Reso head. And then so many different ways to look at it. But yeah, it's different for everybody.
Oh, look at Yeti Elusive. He had to take about a year and a half off just working all the time from recording. Holy macaroni.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
Good to see you here, brother.
yeah.
Glad to have you.
Any fun countries you went to traveling?
Studio Dude says he does say that those are a little bit hyped in the low end, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for tracking.
No.
I have found that for the tracking headphones, the more hyped they are, actually, in one way or the other, does make it a better experience for whoever is out doing the work. If they're hyped in the low end, I'm going to definitely give that maybe to the bass players.
Of course.
And probably drummers too. If it's more mid-range hype, guitar players might get that. Singers might get that sort of thing. So you almost use your headphones as an EQ mix for those people.
Yeah.
So the fact that you tells me that, I'm definitely going to get some and check those things out.
Yeah.
I mean, for $14.99 plus the ridiculous amount of tax, there'll be more in tax than there will be for that.
Yeah.
Welcome to California.
Yeah. Yeah, usually I can't hear myself. You get from bass
Song
players.
salute. Okay, that's even funnier. He says, laugh out loud. I was saying take the batter head off because they can't play. That's awesome. I'm going to remember that trick. On a break when they're in listening, if the drummers know I'm going to go in, I'm just going to go take the batter head off. They're going to walk out there and the pedal down and it's going to hit nothing. I'm going to do that to someone just to mess with them. That sounds like a fun little thing to do. That's great.
That is awesome. Oh yeah, we'll definitely try those headphones. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And as I sat back right now, I got to mention one thing. This is not what our topic was today, but it doesn't matter what our topic is. We can all talk about whatever we want, right? Ways to trick drummers. I'm totally down with that. But we've got new chairs in here recently that you may have seen in some of the videos from Wave. I think Wavebone is the name of the company. They sent me a couple. These things are badass. Ridiculously comfortable. Headrest, which I didn't think I was going to like at first. Now I can't live without it. Really good back support in the one I have. I can't remember the model. I'll look this up. I'm actually going to do a YouTube short on this sometime because I think these chairs are so bitchin'. And we spend so much time sitting. You got to have something comfortable. And both these are two different models. But my favorite thing about them, or one of them, is the armrests go down. So no longer do I have to go find all my freaking drum stools for guitar players and bass players or stringed players when they come in and we're tracking in here. It's just like, dude, take one of those. We put it down. They get to sit in a comfortable chair. You can lock it, and it's really great back support. And they slay the Jazz Dragon.
Yeah. Wavebone.
Wavebone. How? Actually, Hal, thank you, because you're the one that turned me on to this company. Thank you. These chairs have been bitching. I especially like the one I'm in. I gave him the one I don't like. Well, also this one goes a little taller, which I prefer for where my head ends up with my speakers. And he's way taller than me because look at this. This chair is a good 4 inches taller. Sit up straight. He's still almost taller than I am. But these chairs rock. I'm going to do a YouTube short on this soon because, man, we spend so much time sitting on our ass. You got to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And for me, when I'm editing video, I'll take a photo of this sometime because he laughs at me. I'm lowrider. I like to put the seat back. I like to put my feet up on a chair, and I put the Bluetooth keyboard in my lap, and that's how I edit video, like I'm in my lowrider, and it's awesome. They're going to be at NAMM next year. I'll be there. Does it have a seat belt? Oh, the wheels on this thing rock. You can actually do races around the room. They glide nice, and they're quiet. And they're not ridiculously expensive for what you get. And that's another thing is They're affordable. They have a couple different models to fit what you're doing. And look, they're not sponsoring anything. They just sent me some to check out. So I'm just reporting. If I didn't like them, one thing you got to know about me, and maybe you already do, I'm not going to say something if I don't like it or if I won't use it. I'm not interested in that.
They're asking how much they cost, you know?
Go to the Wavebone website. I think. Which one do you have? I think this one's the Viking that I'm sitting in. I should know my models better, but I should know my drums better too. They're round and they go boom. I either like the boom or don't like the boom. He's looking it up, but so now you do donuts on Studio 4. Oh yeah, man. When I get bored, I just I have little secret races with myself.
So this one looks like it, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I'm using right now, I think. Yeah, the Viking. And you can get it with and without the headrest too.
$550.
$550. The head, I will say, I remember talking to Hal about this. The first time I put the headrest on and it was there, I'm like, why would anybody want this headrest like this? This is absolutely ridiculous. And a week later, I had it off and I went to lean back and I thought it was there and it wasn't. And I about got whiplash. And now I'm so used to it and you can position it where you want it. It rules.
Yeah, is this the Voyager, the other one?
Yeah, you've got the Voyager.
Yeah. So the Voyager is $440.
Really nice chairs, really comfortable. And with as much time as I spend in here sitting, that's important. So I just thought I'd mention that. I thought of that as I was leaning back and I went to lowrider mode. I'm like, oh, wait a second. These awesome chairs. So check out the Wavebone stuff. They make a bunch of other things too, but the chairs, they rock. They're killer. I could use a new studio. Yeah, Yeti.
No, they're not armless. You can move the armrests.
Yeah, you probably can't see. Let me see. Oh, yeah. You can't even. I'm sitting here demonstrating the arms going up and down and no one can see it. No, they have regular armrests, right? Normal ones. But they're adjustable. I mean, height-wise, you can go forwards and backwards to fit, but you can also literally, there's a button on the bottom and they fold all the way down. So now you're basically have a chair with no arms. So you put guitar in your hand, bass in your hand, ukulele, accordion, anything that requires you to move like this, and you get to have a nice, comfortable chair, but you don't have the armrests in the way, which for me is great because we would do a lot of overdubs in here. We have 3 chairs, and all of a sudden I've got 2 drum stools in here for people, and now you can't walk anywhere. Now it's just like, okay, whoever's recording, sit in the chair, put the arms down, go. Everybody's comfortable. It's great. So I like the chairs. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Armrests up, armrests down. Headrest, I've gotten so used to it. When I go sit in we have another chair over there that's an expensive chair. Don't like it as much. And there's no headrest. It's got a lower back. These are cool. Could you play? I suppose you could. I mean, the only thing, if you're playing drums, where the hell... Well, the legs don't come out any further than a normal drum stool. So, yeah. I guess you could. I've had to play drums on a folding plastic chair because my dumbass forgot to take a stool to a festival one time with Bleeding Heart years ago. And I literally had to go out into the crowd to the chairs and take one of the plastic chairs. So you saw everybody up there, and I was like this high over my drum set in the back. The snare was like hit my chest. And that's what you get. It happens. Because the other drummer wouldn't lend me his seat. It was a competition, and I guess he thought I would play worse. I kicked his ass. I mean, the band did. It wasn't about the drums. It's a blues band. The drummer's just got to keep good time and make it swing. And that's one thing I can do. Solos, not so much. Pat boom, beddy doom. Pat boom, debby boom. Solo over.
Yeah.
That's my solo.
All right, yeah.
Armrest. My drum phone can help me with my bad rudiment technique. You know, if your rudiment technique is bad, here's what I recommend. Don't play rudiments. Then it's not bad. You know, somebody asks why you don't play rudiments, say, it's not my style.
Yeah. See, it went back.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, no one's complained yet, so. Dude, I love rudiments. You know. Now we're in a whole different topic. Ace, thanks for joining us, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. We will see you. Well, we're gonna have a couple more recording ones coming up, and I'm gonna plan these out because Studio Dude let me know that YouTube has not been doing a good job of getting the alerts out, and I've heard that from a few other people too. So I'm going to try to do a better job on my end of just making sure everyone knows. So we'll see you next time around. Rudiments for breakfast. There was a day that I woke up that way. When I was at Music Tech in Minneapolis, back in the 90s, that was the decade that was many decades ago, I had a book by the end of my years about this thick with all my daily routines of all my practice stuff on a pad, rudiments and everything. Then I had another book almost as thick, was how all of that got translated to the kit and how I was doing on that with all markings. I probably still have that somewhere.
Yeah.
House says paradiddles are overrated. How dare you, sir? That's the one rudiment you need. But yeah. I can zoom around the kit with him. I actually have, that was one of, I'm not going to do any drum lessons. I spent 20 years teaching at MI. I'm not doing any drum lessons. But I have many ways I can show how you can use paradiddles around a kit. And how, by the way, is just joking. How a former student of mine and great assistant here knows how cool paradiddles are. They can be a lot of fun. But we can just program the drums. We don't really need the drummer. So all you guitar players out there, you can program this stuff.
Of course.
Oh, speaking of programming, I forgot to say today, and there's a link in the description, I released a new sample pack.
Yeah.
The Heavy Sandwich there's some one-shots. This is from some recent sessions, and I have about 6 or 8 of these I'm working on. I'm doing it a little bit different than before. I took the other ones down because I'm going to clean up and fix some things there. I'm getting all the layouts. If you have a Logic sampler, slate trigger, and battery, there's already presets laid out for those, and they'll all be consistent to where if you get them, and I'm doing kits for $9.99. That is $9.99, not $999, unless you want to leave a tip. Can argue with that. But this one has 2 different process kicks. They're similar but a little bit different. There's 2 different snares, same snare but treated differently. They're mainly one shots, but this one I actually took a couple velocities on the snare that sound really cool. The toms are cool. There's a couple crashes in there. There's a stacker. The link is in the description. Each month from here on out for a while, I'm going to release a new one. And they will all, if you're using the Logic or the battery stuff, they'll all fit. If there's another sampler you guys are using, let me know. I'll try to get some presets for those too. It just takes time, and I don't have all the different samplers. So I'd be very curious to know what you're using. See if I can maybe add that into the preset list. But there are some slate trigger presets already in there with the kicks, the snares, and the toms. And there's room sounds, there's natural, and there's dry. And then there's also just the folders with just the samples. You can take them and use them however you use. So they're pretty cool. My drum house says his drummer name is Slate Digital. Wait a second. But you're a wait, what? How? I'm disappointed. Disappointed in you right now. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Well, yeah, we got the classics. Easy Drummer, Superior. Yeah, all the classics.
Mine is SD3. Okay, yeah, that. Marcos and How. Come on now. How, though? Come on, man.
Yeah, they're all the typicals.
I have a new bass player named Easy, too. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. We use Kyle for just quick pre-pros, right? It's just quick and easy, and then
I fired Kyle. The last time I used Kyle, I wasn't happy with Kyle. I can't remember who I went to, but Kyle got fired. I didn't like his drum fills, man. It was driving me crazy. It's either too much or too little. Come on, man. Listen to me. I know you use Kyle a lot. You still like Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle got fired here. Kyle still has a job over there. And if any of you have Logic, you know what we're talking about. The drummers all have names in their drum program. Hal uses Logan first.
Oh yeah, Logan is the Bonham look-alike.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah, from the.
I
from
do
the
it
profile.
myself. If I'm doing it that way, I just do it myself. Where are we at? So we're now, see, we went from all the headphone stuff. Somehow we got into rudiments.
Yeah.
And now we're making fun of Logic drummers.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, Man Network, yeah, absolutely. The whole mic'd up kit, I agree there.
Oh yeah.
But I think I know the way we've used the program stuff for is pre-production. If you just need something quick, I don't have a kit set up in there and don't want to do it, program it, get it, and then go. Absolutely. It is a good way to kind of get just ideas out quickly. There's a couple artists that I work with that do all their pre-pro that way, just to get the ideas out so they can either do it faster or just, work more efficiently, especially if they're sending stuff back and forth to each other, and then we go in and we mic everything up. But I totally 100% agree, there is nothing that beats a fully mic'd up kit that's right. The depth, the feel, the uniqueness.
Yeah.
There's some great samples out there now. I
Yeah.
mean, you got all the Get Good drums and everybody uses Slate and all this sounds freaking amazing. But I'm going to get flamed for this, but I don't give a shit. It doesn't have the personality of the people that were playing it.
Yep.
It just doesn't. And I like that personality. For me personally, my preference is the uniqueness of whoever the person is, whoever the band is.
Yeah.
I'm not against samples. I just released a one-shot pack, and I've done it before. They can make great blends, or sometimes the samples are you use them as you would an EQ, but the sample does a better job. Maybe it's a low-end thing. Maybe it's a cut thing, and you need it on a snare or a kick, and the sample got what you wanted quicker without having to EQ. Dude, go to town.
Yeah.
My preference is people playing instruments, and you let that stuff breathe, and then you augment as necessary. But that's my thing. So fire me. Yeah, the trigger and reverbs and gates. I used to do that a lot. I've stopped doing that some now. I've kind of liked well, unless the bleed is too bad, but especially with snares. But a little bit of that going into the reverbs kind of makes it more chaotic. And I'm in this period right now of embracing the chaos. Well, I've been in that period for quite a while. If you're working with me, you're embracing the chaos. But yeah, that old good trick of using that to trigger your reverb so you get cleaner hits, especially if you have sounds with a lot of bleed. But I stole, everything we do now in our production is stealing from somebody, right, at this point in time. But there was a Chris Lord Algae thing that I saw once with him, and I don't know if he does this all the time, but there's a particular video where he was, instead of sending the close mics to the reverb, he was sending his room mics. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I've done that on a few occasions and not had any reverb coming from the close mics, and I took my clean room sounds and used them as the trigger for the reverb, and I was like, wow, okay, I guess this Chris guy, who is this dude? He knows what I'm talking about. So there's many ways to do it. Many, many, many ways. But yes, triggers to English Charlie. Triggers, samples. What am I talking about? Samples to trigger the reverb. This is a great one. I'm from Kansas. English not my first language. Yeah, it's all theft. I don't know why I always end up looking at I got one right in front of me, but I'm always reading off your computer.
I always put mine bigger.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the first one of those jokes today.
Yeah, wow.
And in case you guys didn't know, Scranton Business Park is literally only 100 yards down the street from here. We are right next to where they filmed The Office.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, studio dude. The bleed, I think getting the bleed, if you control the bleed in a way that it feels good in the kit and it's not, sometimes you can't. You got a drummer that just hammers the hi-hats too much or whatever. But if you get the kit set up right and it's good, that bleed can actually be pretty cool. 90% of the time now on stuff that I've recorded, I don't even cut my toms out. I don't cut it out. I don't do mute automation. I don't do volume automation. I get it right and it sounds good and I leave it there because I turn those mics off or I pull the volume down with some volume automation. Or I cut all the dead space out, and all of a sudden my kit changed. Sometimes it's better. If the kit is tuned really well, though, and the drummer plays it well, that all adds to the flavor.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends. The one thing I've learned is there is no one way to do any of this. And every time I think, I got my way, Like 2 projects later, I'm like, my way doesn't work. So I'm having to figure out a new one, which is great.
Yeah.
Whatever works is what works, you know?
Yeah. So cool. You know, just I think that covers it today, right?
Is the pre-chrono drums is a glorified. Yeah, Yeti, that's interesting. That can be good and that can be really bad. And it depends on who you're working with. If it's for you then, and the drummers, it's great. But I've had that on a few sessions over the past year or two where we did have programmed drums. And like Stephen Wolf, he'll do this sometimes because he's often the one when he comes in and tracks, he's the one that did the programming for the artist to get everything approved so they knew what we're recording. And he comes in and it's just like, okay, we're replacing everything I programmed now with him playing it. Mm-hmm. And it always sounds amazing because he's an amazing drummer. He always keeps all of that on. One, his time is stupid good, his groove ridiculous. But for him, it is that reference, and he gets it. Make sure he played the parts that he programmed, and it's right. We turn the programs off, and it instantly feels better because it's him playing. Works awesome. Have had the exact opposite happen. Actually, I did a session with Greg Garman. Amazing drummer, by the way. Cool dude. We got hired to do some stuff for an artist. I can't remember who it was, where they had everything programmed out, and were so married to the program parts and wanted him to feel like the program drums, which is impossible for a drummer to do, especially if it's rock or prog rock kind of stuff. We're human beings. We don't have time like that, you know? And it ended up hampering our session because there kept being that comparison. Well, it doesn't sound like the program drums. Of course it doesn't. First off, in my opinion, it sounds better once we mute the program drums because Greg kicks ass. But you just can't, you know, the comparison was actually making that session much harder. So, yeah, I mean, I can see where it could work. And I've been in the case where it actually made our session quite difficult, especially when you have good drummers.
Yeah. And then here, how do you minimize phase issues when miking drums?
Oh, here we go. How far are we into this stream? Oh, my computer's going to die.
Yeah.
I'm at 7% and I didn't plug it in.
Yeah. So
hey, Delilah, can you give me a... Oh,
let's leave that for the next one.
Well, we'll touch it on a little bit, you know, but that's a huge question because man, when you have multiple mics on something, you can never have it 100% in phase. It's just not gonna happen. But the good news is you don't have to have it 100% in phase. And just so everyone knows, I never time align my drums ever. I don't time align overheads. I don't time align rooms. I don't. Okay, wait, hold on. Crap, I lied. Okay, caveat here. I do time align one thing, but I do it while I'm tracking over here, out of sight, like way out of sight, and I'm not going to grab it because it's plugged in. I have a radial phaser that I use because I take my inside kick mic and my first outside kick mic. I treat those as one microphone. So I do align my inside kick. I pull it back to the outside kick, and that becomes what I call kick in. And then I have a third mic that actually is technically my outside kick. So yes. See, there I go. I thought I had a way of doing it, and right out of the gates, I'm lying. It didn't occur to me. So beyond that, I don't. I think here's what it comes down to. Starting with a minimal setup. And this is a great thing to practice, even if you're used to setting all kinds of mics up. Back it all off. Take a 4-mic setup. Kick, snare, overheads. And then add toms in later. So maybe you have, you know, one kick, one snare. We all know the bottom snare mic, top snare mic thing because you have diaphragms pointing different directions, and you have sound flow that top mic hits, and it causes the sound to go down, and it's getting it coming back up a different direction for the top mic than it is on the bottom. So that phase relationship is almost always different. Although I have done it a few times where it didn't seem that different. Could depend on how far it is. But almost always it's better with that bottom mic flipped out of phase. I find that most often my overheads are at a different phase relationship than the rest of the kit. And keep in mind those buttons that you have on your console, your mic pre, in your DAW are not phase buttons. They are polarity buttons. They are flipping polarity. They are not adjusting phase. They are two different things. Polarity is 0 and you have 180. You can go one way or the other. Phase, all your phase relationships are much different because it's all time related, right? So if you start with learning where the overheads are, go up, go down, and find out how that reacts. The lower my overheads are, I found that I'm almost always flipping that polarity switch. The higher they get, I found that it is less of an issue. Same thing with room mics. But if you start with 4 mics on a kit and you figure out, listen to that snare, solo the snare, solo the overheads, flip the polarity and the overheads. I always go with the overheads first for some reason. It always seems to work better for me anyway. And you listen for when you get the most beef. If there's not a lot of change between the two, you're in a pretty good spot. A lot of the times you'll hear a fairly significant issue. And I hear that first when people send me stuff to mix and I pull the drums up. I'm so used to listening for it now, I can go, oh man, the overheads are out of phase, because I can hear it in the snare sound right away, or I can even hear it in the tom sound. You go flip it, oh, there we are. There's our beef. That's the first thing I would do to learn kind of the relationship of the most important things, kick, snare, and overheads, and then add one element back in. That's great practicing. Get some friends over, get a band, somebody hit something for you, and work with that. It's never going to be 100%. I know some people love the time-align and they get it perfect and they like the sound. Great. I personally don't like that. I like the depth of what happens to where you get mics that are at different distances from each other. You know, room's way out here. You got your overhead. Sometimes there's a front kit mic. You know, when you get those distances, the relationship between all those pretty nicely, and you pull the kit up, it sounds so much deeper and things move. And I just like that. So I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that happens. But I also, from doing it for so long, kind of know right out of the gates where I have something set up, what it's going to be just by looking at it, because I kind of have an idea on the distances. If I have a front kit mic that I run a lot, that goes snare drum to overheads to front kit, so I make sure those 3 are in phase, so I can always use those. Then I check them all against the snare. Room mics, I usually do my check against the kick drum, because it's easier to hear your bottom end if all of a sudden I crank it up and I have the sub going and I have rooms and kick, and I just flip my room mics, flip the polarity on those, and I wait till I hear like, ooh, that one's hit me in the gut better. Okay, leave it there wherever it is. And sometimes I leave it there, and sometimes I'll go, I'm going to go move the mic. That's the quick way, but you're right. That's a huge freaking conversation. The only time I'm religious on phase and polarity is on my snare, kick mics, and mid-side. Well, mid-side, yeah, you better be. I think overheads. To me, the overheads are the eyes of the drum set. And that's the first thing I pull up when I'm getting sounds on a session. I pull up the overheads before the kick, before the snare. And if that kit doesn't sound like what I'm hearing in the room, like what we want, I don't even bother with the snare mic and the kick mic yet, because it's not going to make any difference. I go make a change in the overheads. But if the overhead phase relationship alone is enough to kill your drum sound. Sometimes I timeline if I receive tracks to mix that I don't record. Yeah, I could, again, every situation's different. Sometimes you get something that you didn't do, and the quickest way to get you to a spot that you can get working is to do some time aligning. I totally get that. I wouldn't rule that out if I got stuff and I'm sitting there trying to figure it out and it just made more sense to do that and it got somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's faster to do that, and you'll get to an end result that's usable quicker doing that than it would be to try to find what that distance is, like, moving them around to try to find it, especially if you didn't record it. But if you're doing the recording on your own, take the time to get it right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's not that much more time. You'll get better at recording, and the more you do that, the more you know where you're putting mics, what that is going to sound like right out of the gates. Even if you change setups sometimes, you'll start to learn that stuff. Yeah. Unless you're working in different rooms all the time. Okay, then I can see that. But still, take the time to learn phase. Yeah. And then realize you start putting an EQ on something, especially if you do low-end shaping, especially if you're doing low-end cuts, which don't need to happen on every channel. That often change, unless you're using some sort of linear phase EQ in your DAW, that's going to change your phase relationship too. I mean, that's the whole thing of analog. It's like completely messing with all those. Yeah. And that's why, like, the A-range stuff is a freaking phase timer. It's all over the place, but it has just awesome tone, so who cares? But when I'm mixing, as I'm working, I check that relationship constantly throughout a mix. Even when I think I got it dialed in, a couple hours go into it, and all of a sudden I change an EQ. What's going on? Oh, that EQ I just did to make that better made the phase relationship somewhere else a little wacky.
Yeah, and then here, last question: how much do you guys pad mics and preamps on the way in?
All depends on the source. I set out not to. I don't pad the preamps at all here because the one I don't have a pad. You know, it's just there isn't one. And it depends on the mic. If I have a mic that I like the tone of, but it's just a little too hot, I'll hit the pad on the mic. Unless it's the Colaris, because the pad changes the amount of harmonic saturation distortion that's in the circuit. So I actually had some really bitchin' inline pads made. So we'll knock it down 15 dB so I can use that mic and push it into that and still have room coming into my preamps. Outside kick. Okay, if I'm using my 4047, which is usually my third mic on the outside kick, I almost always turn the pad on there because I know it's just going to get hammered with volume, and that mic can handle a lot too. But it usually just depends. Well, yeah, see, that's the part that depends on the headroom of your actual gear. If your mic preamps have a lot of headroom, that's going to change what you have to do with the pad with your microphone. See, that it makes sense in my head. But if you have a mic that, say, outputs this loud, but the headroom on your mic pre is only here, of course you have to pad that. But if you have a mic pre that has a lot more headroom, that changes what you have at the mic.
Yeah.
That also didn't quite explain it that well, but yeah, some gear has less headroom, and also your interface. Maybe that's the thing there. Your interfaces, like the Motus here, these old 24IOs don't have the same amount of headroom going in as all the new gear does. Matter of fact, I'm about probably a good 10 dB lower than most.
Mm-hmm.
So I really gain stage when I'm going into that. I mean, I don't think about it now, but we just push it, and sometimes you want to push the gear, so screw the pad. If you have, some Neve preamps, or I can push the input transformers on the Trident, you can do that.
So, cool.
All right. Well, there's already some things. I had a padded cable made at -18 just to use it. Yeah. I can't remember the company that I had make some really nice inline pads for me that just work really good. Electric Out, man, if you have really good ones made, especially, someone that knows what they're doing. I wanted someone that was better at making them than me, so I knew they were right, and I loved them. Yeah, all the Motu stuff is all pretty cool. These are old 24IOs here, and a couple 828s. I think there's like 56 inputs right now. So they just don't have the same headroom.
Yeah.
But I hadn't hampered anything yet. Yeah. I am looking forward to that day where I get that extra 10 dB, though. Holy crap, look out, world. All right, guys. Clark's Cables on eBay makes great... Interesting. I'll have to check those out. Clark's Cables.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy that I get all my patch cables from off of eBay also. Do you remember the name of him? Because you've ordered from him too. Do you remember the name?
Was the JD guy something?
I think something like that. Yeah. I need to order some more. They're great. So really good. But we should do. I think we'll do some drum stuff again coming up at some point, because that phase thing is that's a huge question, But there's a lot of variables that go in with that. Room, proximity to walls, mic height, all that sort of thing. And then if you're EQing. But there's some basics that we could start with that would be kind of good. So we should do that. We are planning in the next couple weeks another recording one of these. I'm trying to get my boy Stephen Wolf to come in, and we're going to do some like tuning talk. Go look up Stephen Wolf. Amazing drummer. His credit list is like huge, and it's a who's who of has been big in the last like 20 years. And he's really good at tuning and understanding the types of sounds and knowing what they've done on records over the years. So I'm trying to get him to come in so we can do something with him, and still working on a couple other guests. It's just right now it's just scheduling stuff. And as we get closer to the holidays, it's getting a little bit more difficult, but we're going to keep doing some. So we're going to have some more recording ones coming up. Absolutely. So we'll get another list of voting. We're trying to add a little spice to it, maybe change it up just a little bit. But we'll get the voting list back up here soon, and I'll have dates hopefully in the next day or two. Oh, yeah, Studio Dude. Okay, yeah. That'd actually be a good topic sometime as a starter topic on one of these, too. Yeah, the whole LUFS thing. Because that's a whole other...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Still a lot of differing opinions on all of that. So we'll try to cover all of them if we can. Yeah, it can be confusing, but I think there's some ways to make it at least easy for a starting point to know where you're going. So everything's a can of worms now if I think about it. When it comes to recording,
yeah.
Ooh, that's an idea for a t-shirt. That's going to be an idea. So, all right, guys, I'm starving. My battery's going to die, and I'm running the stream from here. So, well, we've got like 3 computers running the stream. But thank you all for joining us. I'll have dates as soon as possible for the next one of these that we're going to do recording at, and I'll share it everywhere, and I'll try to do some like stories and shorts leading up to it too, so everyone is aware of this. We thank you all for joining us. You rock. We're having a good time, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Excellent.
And we're out. Thanks, everybody.